This is Charlie Mato-Toyela with Blue Bear Flutes, and today's video is a continuation of our 12-week flute playing class. I hope I've given you plenty of time to practice those other lessons, and what we're going to be sharing today is something that I know a lot of you have wanted for some time. I actually have even a separate video about this, and that is the song of the Blue Bear, the one that's at the intro to most of my YouTube videos, and I've had so much demand for it. Now, before I go too far, and so that I don't forget, I'd like to let you know that I do have another album coming out very soon. Not all of my albums are still available. I mean, it's been some time that I've been doing this. However, the one that's coming out is the definitive Blue Bear Flutes album, and this will be one of the highlighted songs in the album, the extended version of this song. Now, what we're going to discuss today is actually the song and how you can learn to play it, which is somewhat going over tablature that we discovered or discussed in previous videos, but at the same time we're also talking about this specific song, and you can follow along with me and see how it is that we go from one note to the next, which is really the key in learning how to read, especially Native American flute tablature, but really any tablature, and to go beyond that, any music. So we're going to be discussing a few things here, but to start with, as you probably recall, we're going to practice the most important parts of flute playing, which is your posture. Make sure that you sit up straight. We're going to practice breath control, how to hold the flute, and that is very important. If you don't recall from the last video or the previous videos, when you hold the Native American flute, the real key is knowing where you're going to put your hands when you're not playing it. So you want to be able to put your fingers near where the holes are located, but not covering the holes. And if you learn to do that and practice doing that, you will get a great feel for basically where your fingers can go and hide when they're not in use. So just to practice all these at once, breath control, always take a deep, relaxing breath. And today's video, of course, I think it's number 10 of our 12-week course. You should have graduated at this point to knowing how to play the scale from bottom to top, not just from top to bottom. As I've said so many times, when I pick up a flute for the first time through the day, or if it's a new flute or what have you, not while I'm making them, of course, in the shop, but anytime I'm going to play a flute, the first thing I do is put my fingers on the holes, uncover them, play the top note. And it's important to learn how to do that with the bottom note as well. Now, one little note for advanced flute players out there, which typically this video series is for beginning to intermediate flute class, but for advanced flute players, I would like to point out one thing that you probably have discovered already. And I say advanced because typically when people own 4 or 5 Native American flutes, you consider yourself advanced, whatever skill set you're at. Either you consider yourself advanced or a collector. And collectors are usually people who don't play a lot. Some of them do, but typically, just for the whole psychology of it, we fall into one category or another. But when you pick up a mid-size instrument, your fingers feel pretty comfortable and you're pretty used to it. When you pick up a smaller flute, you're a little tight in your grip and you're a little smaller positioning for your hands. In a larger flute, like this mid to low tone, low E, this flute is not really large, but it is on the verge of becoming one of our lower tone flutes, and you will notice that your fingers in some cases may be even more relaxed than what they have been before. So if you've been playing, say, a higher tone or mid-tone flute, and then you pick up a low tone flute, one thing that you want to practice before you even put the flute to your mouth is taking the fingerings off and putting them back on Of course, you really can't take the fingerings off, can you? Taking your fingers off and putting them back on like this, because if you've been used to playing a smaller flute, your muscle memory, or athletic memory as people call it, is not going to honestly display itself in its ideal form here, because you're going to want to put your fingers to that closer area. So like I said, that's a really great reason to practice these fingerings before you even put the flute to your mouth. So one more time, top to bottom. And in doing so, I've noticed on my own skill set here, just to give you kind of a preview of what I'm talking about, I can feel that this finger is not where I normally keep it. And same with this one. This one's close, but that feels better. I personally like to use the pads of my fingers to cover these holes. If you want to use some fancy grip style, you're welcome to, like maybe Kung Fu grip or the Piper's grip. You can certainly play your flutes like this. I do have friends from the Andes who play their flutes like this. However, for me, this is what's comfortable. You have to do what works best for you. I think I've said that at least once before. So easy stuff, something we've done already. Next, I would like to remind you that I have a few pieces of flute tablature on the online class page of my website that you can download. They're also on the sheet music page of my website. This River King dancing song, one of my favorites. I'm not going to say that it's 100 years old or 500 years old. It's probably 30 years old. But this song is one that you can find there, download, and I have a video displaying how to play it. So that's kind of important stuff there. The one that we're going to be using for this particular video is the Song of the Blue Bear, which is the intro song to, once again, my YouTube channel. I've played this song most of my life. It's probably one of the first ones that really came to me in full depth, and it's once again a crowd favorite. Otherwise I wouldn't be putting it on the definitive Blue Bear Flutes album. So there's that. And then if you haven't found it, or if you have any need for it, don't forget we do also have, let's see here, the scale sheets available on that page. So if you need anything from the standard to the tonic major scale, if you want to learn how to play the major scale of your flute, we Blue Bear Flutes videos will be covering much more of that in the near future. Although we do have videos specific to the tonic major scale outside of the flute class videos. And then the blues scale, which is one of my favorites, and most people that I know that are musicians really love that. And then the chromatic scale, yes, that very difficult chromatic scale has gotten several of its own videos. So practicing these kind of things will give you strength and ability as a player. It'll allow you to play with other musicians. And as I've always said, if you don't want to practice playing major scales and pentatonic scales and minor scales, and you just want to play whatever it is that your flute is made in, that's always an option. The pentatonic minor scale is what most Native American flutes are made in. There are people today that make them in major keys, which is taking it a stretch further away from its originality. And then of course there are people making them in Arabic keys and alleged Egyptian keys, and so on and so on and so on. However, if you want to play your Native American flute in the design that it's created in, if you have a 5-hole flute like the one I'm showing you here, or if you have the 6-hole flute that has a fingering right there in between these two, and many of you might say, where else would you put it? I would put it somewhere else, but if you have that one, and the flute maker or the instructions that came with your flute, or if it sounds correct when you do this, keep that hole covered most of the time, because for whatever reason the design of that flute has been such that it won't play the correct minor pentatonic scale. I do have a lot of other videos about that, unless you keep it covered up. So just pretend that this hole here doesn't exist. Either keep it covered up all the time. I would suggest putting a piece of tape over it for convenience, especially if you're a beginner. And I want to make sure that I cover the process and how to do that. However, I don't promote, of course, those kind of flutes. And once again, videos and descriptions on my website for all this kind of thing. But if we can get right into the Song of the Blue Bear, I'm going to show you step by step. We're going to go from one page to the second page to the third page, all the way through one at a time, showing you what it takes to play this song. So if you'll notice, the first note, the first design of the flute shows all the holes are black. That means they're covered. So if you hold the flute, you'll notice below it has a little bar that says hold. If you hold the flute with all fingerings on the holes, if you've gotten to the point of playing that you can do that and produce a good note, then you're ready for this. So play that note. How long do you hold the note? That's kind of up to you. We're going to get to the style and the transposing and adapting this song and its tablature at the end of me showing you the notes. I just want you to see how this works. So. And I'm trying to play it without style, even though I'm compelled as a seasoned player to put style in everything I do. I want you to see how the simplicity of this actually works, and you'll hear it in the intro to these videos. Stop right there. That's the whole top line. All I'm doing is covering all the holes, letting the bottom three off, and then covering the third hole from the top, and then uncovering it, and then the third hole from the top again, and then uncovering it, uncover the second from the top hole, and then covering back, and then going back kind of down the scale, and we end up back here. That's at the end of that line. So one more time, just playing it simply all the way through, and this will get quicker if you've already played this part of the song before, or if you know how to read tablature. I promise you this process will get quicker. I just want the beginners to know exactly where we're going and what we're doing. So. Once again, the top line. We'll go on to the next line. Now you notice right there, that's kind of a feeling of completion. So I'll play it a little faster. And of course, in the videos you hear. And that is what we're shooting for in the end. But for now, we need to practice the notes. The notes are the key. If you get to the point in practicing, and this is by far the best way to practice anything that you're going to have to play, I guess, without music. First thing you want to do, play the first note. Next thing you want to do, play it as it goes to the next note, and so on, until you can remember without looking at the paper. And you'll practice that. And once again, I'm not telling you to practice a Blue Bear Flute song. It goes for anything. You'll practice that one line at the time, or one phrase at the time, which is where we ended on that song. That's the second picture of the Native American flute on the second line of the first page, where it says hold there. That's where we just ended in that phrase. So the next part of the song that we'll go through, that's actually the next phrase. You notice it's shorter than the first one. It's almost half the size. Don't get too caught up in the mathematical eloquence of writing music. That's going to drive you nuts. It drives most people nuts eventually, and then they hire somebody else to do it, or they pay a computer to do it for them. But don't get caught up in that so much, as it is the fact that the first phrase is longer than the second phrase. And I would suggest just going back and practicing now the second phrase that we just played. and play it even without style. If you feel like putting some kind of style and you've got that in your repertoire, go for it. If you don't, it's going to be all right. So play it with or without style and just practice it again. Oops, I messed up. And it's okay to mess up. So I don't want to allude that any of us are perfect. Anybody that tells you that anybody's perfect may have some misconceptions about reality. But if you want to play something exactly as it's written, that's what we just did. Now, if I have mastered those two pieces of those two phrases of this song, still on the first page, and I know those of you who have already mastered reading tablature, you're thinking, when are we going to get to the meat and potatoes? And I would love to tell you, you can skip to XYZ part of this video, but you might miss something. And so, in any case, you want to make those parts your own to such a degree that if you make a mistake, that nobody knows it. You don't want to say, oops, and tell people that you made a mistake. Now, I wrote the song, I play it a lot. I play it hundreds of different ways. I've played it for small crowds, big crowds, no crowds. Played it, and I had played it, I think, at one point in my life, probably until I got sick of it, maybe. But I don't get sick of things like that anymore, so I've kind of reinserted it back into my life, and we can talk philosophy on another video. But in any case, you want to make any of this your own, any of the style, any of the music. And no, I'm not giving you permission to copyright this song as your own right now and cut an album with it. I'm not doing that. And I know a lot of you are like, but what I'm telling you is, when you perform this the way that you perform it, think of maybe a concert violinist who has been playing the same song for huge crowds his whole life, gets paid fair amount of money. You know, some people would say exorbitant, I think maybe fair. And one day this violinist thought, you know, I'm going to hold that one note for 2 beats. In some cases, that may really work out. And other cases, your donors might be thinking, you know, I don't know what you did different. Anyway, let's move on to the next line so we can get through this piece of music. I'm just going to play it until I get finished with the phrase there, and I'll tell you where it ends. Now, you'll notice that I stopped in the top line, middle of the second page. That's the third phrase of this song. If you'll notice, there was a hold right before that long hold in the middle that I ended on. There was a hold there, and I held it for this long. That's what I'm talking about, that concert violinist. You know, sometimes he thinks, hey, you know, maybe I'll do this, and sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. Since I'm playing this so robotically and style-free and plain to help show you how basically to read the tablature and how this song is, you know, how you can basically translate it in your mind to your own playing style, I wanted to show that right there. If you were to rewind it, or I can just play it again for you like that, just maybe the last couple of lines, you'll see that you feel like, hey, wait a minute, that wasn't right. I mean, he's playing it robotic and style-free, but shouldn't that transition have taken a little longer? It's one of those things. And some of you might be saying, hey, you know, that sounded better, once again, style-free and robotically, but that sounded better because I played that second to last note in the phrase a little longer. That's something we discussed in the class 7. It was one of our tips, I believe, was playing slowly and slow transitions and what have you. And those kind of things, they make the world of difference in an expressive instrument that really, the crowd isn't watching me read this music here. I'm only following this so that I can help you learn how to read it. But if I were to sit here and play it myself, you know, and not even look at the music, I would maybe play it a little differently. So you have to think about those kind of things. Let's pick up second page of the song. we are in the top line, middle page. After the first, second hold, there's another hold. And this actually could be another version of the I guess the ending of the phrase. It depends on how you read things. 50 of one and half a dozen of another. Now, where I stopped is at the bottom line, second page of the Song of the Blue Bear. The bottom line, middle, I stopped there on that big hold. And this could be the ending of a phrase, but what it truly is the ending of it's the center of a long phrase. So it's the part one ending of a bigger piece. Just like each of the phrases make up the whole song, sometimes, and I'm telling you this because it's so critical to learning how to play an instrument, especially one expressive, that you wind up making up most of the music for yourself. But the way that you play it depends on you. We talked about before breaking pieces of music up into the beginning and the middle and the ending part. And in this particular instance, there is a phrase within the song that has its own multiple parts. Now that's when, if this isn't your song, or your song rather, and you're not accustomed to playing it, you may have some trouble breaking the pieces up into separate pieces. So, for example, there's a beginning of the song, a middle of the song, and an ending of the song. These parts that I'm describing to you may be on part of page 1, maybe all of page 2, and just the bottom part of page 3. But the parts of the song can also have like a middle interlude, and that middle interlude can have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the middle can even be broken up into a bunch of pieces. So if you want to get that complex in your life, you can. You don't have to. If you're a very complex person and it just comes natural, or you can talk forever, then by all means, feel free. That's a part of self-expression. Even if you're a really complicated person, it's okay to express yourself in a simple way that is still mildly complex to you, but helps other people know what you have going on. And I believe, if I remember right, I stopped on page 2 at the bottom, and I just want to make sure that I'm at the bottom line of page 2, and then we're going to start on the hold here right in the middle of the page. There's 3 holds at the bottom. This is the short one in the middle. Now, of course, we're at the end of the top line on page 3. And does that mean it's a phrase? No, it's just a good stopping point for me right now. So I can tell you those little loops, those are actual, in brass we call them smears. It's a connecting of these notes together. So like you can see the first one there is connecting off of the hold from the first note. That just means that it's best to play this right into the next note. So then you play the third note, the fourth, fifth, sixth, and then on note number 7, you'll notice it has a smear above it, or a connecting line above it, right over the top, and it leads into the next note. Even though they're different, I'm going to start at the note number 7 there. It's on the right-hand side, top line of page 3, and I'm going to start there on the first note that has the slur over into the next one, or the carriage over into the next one. And see, you don't have to, but you can even change how you attack the notes so that you get something different. Your mind is always searching for this different, but at the same time it wants comfort and relaxing, which isn't different, that's the same. So just throw a little change in there if you feel like it. We're going to go to the second line on page 3 of the Song of the Blue Bear. Now, that last part you recognized immediately. I mean, I can play the faster version of it. You heard it a minute ago when you turned this video on. But you recognized it immediately because of the note transitions. That's something to store away in your little bag of tricks for playing an instrument, is that the note transitions themselves, the notes themselves, have incredible significance. I've shown in other videos how you can play one note and it sounds amazing. I've shown how you can play notes that sound great together, sound amazing. How you can play notes that sound awful together, sounding amazing. There's ways that you can do this. So that's the ending of actually learning how to read that. And it's very simple. It's something that, really I like to think of myself as being like the Wizard of Oz, right? There's a curtain behind me, but I'm in front of the curtain. Okay, I don't know if any of you can grasp that metaphor, but what I'm trying to do is show you something here. These are the tricks, they really are. This is the magic that makes flute playing what it is. So, how you play. How you play really matters. The notes you play matter a lot, and then your skill level, that doesn't matter so much. Anybody can play good. Anybody can. It's confidence. We discussed in other videos, the class videos specifically, we've talked about confidence and knowing what you're doing. And I'm going to tell you right now, this whole sitting up straight bit, it helps to boost your confidence. I sat up straight way too much in my life, and I became overconfident about some things, and I learned to slouch. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that. I try not to slouch, because who doesn't want to be confident? Why would you not want that? That's a great thing. You continue and continue. If your confidence is misplaced, that's when you need to learn how to be humble. That's not part of this philosophy. But in any case, what I like to think of, and one of the great many things that has taught me about playing the flute, and I'm only going to throw this out there briefly because I don't want people to get these cultural ideas that they're misappropriating something or what have you. But in my youth, I was asked a number of times to play my flute in sweat lodge ceremonies, and I did. And I didn't know how valuable that was to me as a flute player. Now, certainly we could talk about how valuable it is spiritually and what have you, but that's a whole different day and something that might be a little difficult in some ways. But I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to transition that idea. If you don't know what a sweat lodge is or don't know what it's about, I'm not suggesting you go and try it. And I'm not suggesting that it would or wouldn't be appropriate in people's call. I mean, there's so many ifs, ands, or buts we have these days in this world. But what I'd like to transition this over to is stage acting. If you have a fear of being in front of big crowds, this worked for me. And I know in today's culture, in today's society, and what we consider to be morals today or what have you, it may sound questionable. Not to me, it doesn't, because I'm old school about this, but when I first got on stage, I think I was in the 2nd or 3rd grade, the person that told me, if you get scared of standing in front of people, just imagine them out there working, sitting in the audience in their underwear. And I feel completely comfortable telling y'all this because I've already put my disclaimer. We talked about these things in the 70s and 80s, so I'm okay. I put out my copyright notice here. But this person told me, who was a great influence, I mean, in my life, although honestly I don't remember their name. I was in third grade, so it's been a while. But they told me to just imagine everybody being in their underwear. That worked out great for a lot of my colleagues. I was already used to be in front of people, and so it was a good idea, and it's something I've shared with so many people, especially when I speak or do public performances or what have you. Just imagine the people being in their underwear. And I've actually gotten a lot of feedback from new flute players that needed to play somewhere because somebody asked them to and they were afraid. And I told them this, and it really seemed to help. So maybe it'll work for you. Maybe it'll gross you out. I don't know. The world's changed, like I say, a lot. And in the future, I may not even be able to say that kind of thing on a social media platform. But I want to take that idea of seeing your audience out there in their underwear, and I want to flip it. Let's look at the underside of that. There is no audience, okay? And I'm not speaking metaphorically or Buddhist or Taoist. I'm saying there is no audience. There's nobody in front of you. You're by yourself. You're at home. You're in your room. If you need to, lock the door. If you're not, if you're from the 70s, leave the doorknob open. Leave the door open a little bit. It doesn't matter. But imagine yourself being in the dark and naked and alone. You see how quiet all that got? Everybody's like, that's okay. That will teach you how to be humble and how to play the flute and how to be confident. You can learn everything from there. And I know some of my friends that know anything about sweat lodges are like, you just described all that, but that's where I got it from originally. So imagine that you're the great Oz and you're in front of the curtain for a moment, but everybody can, you're wearing a Speedo, okay? Okay, just that way not everybody's grossed out, but you're wearing a Speedo and you're telling everybody your tricks. That's what I want you to realize, that with this song, the song of the Blue Bear, that's what I want you to learn. You can take a lot of life apart in that way, and you can see beyond what the notes are. And when you do this, it makes your flute playing much better. It does make you humble, especially if you don't have the Speedo on in your mind. It makes you very humble, and it gives you confidence. And then you're not so afraid anymore. And it's pretty easy. So that's one of the tricks that I wanted to share with you. Something that helps me out a lot. And honestly, if I go up on stage and I don't have like a script or pre-written anything in front of me that I'm going to take with me to read to somebody, or if I'm in a meeting or something, I don't have anything prepared, that's the one thing that works for me. And that's how I make it through it. So you can put yourself in that position. I've trained myself in the back of my mind. There's a lot of cobwebs these days, but that naked version of me sitting in the dark and the door's closed and there's nobody around except for me, that version of me stands up on that stage. And that's the one that speaks to people, and I don't think about the audience being in their underwear anymore. I'm like, did I use deodorant this morning? I'm wearing pants, right? Somebody please tell me I'm wearing pants. This is not a dream. So in any case, I hope that helps you out with learning how to play this song, the song of the Blue Bear. You can take it back to the beginning of the tablature on this. You can go through it. I recommend playing it robotically all the way through, reading the music, and continue trying that. And you're going to be so tempted, and I recommend following your temptation in this particular case. Other things in life, probably not. This one, yes. But you're going to be so tempted to put a piece of style in there. And it may be a piece, if you're a beginner, it may be a piece you haven't mastered yet. And that's what is good. That is being naked in the dark and in front of an audience right there. That's the stuff. So. It really is. And we've talked about that in another one of the class videos. So make sure you go back and rewatch those if you've missed anything. And you'll notice that I skipped I purposely skipped about 3 lines in the middle just to show you how you can change things. And, you know, I'm not going to, well, I better not say that. I was going to say I wasn't going to ding you copyright, because I can't control what other, you know, organizations do. It's very difficult. The world is a very technical and very difficult thing, and it shouldn't be that difficult to learn how to play a piece of music. And for that reason, I hoped that this video would help you out. But I would say take excerpts of this and make them your own. Find a way to use them in your flute playing repertoire and take it further. That's what I do with every piece of music I've heard. The greatest composers in the world, I'm not going to mention their names here, but the ones that have made the most movie music have copied whole parts of Vivaldi, whole parts of Brahms, you know, every piece of music you've ever heard, Tchaikovsky, Rimsky-Korsakov, they've copied entire parts of their music. If you don't believe me, and it'll be a challenge, go listen to Mars from the Planets. Holst Mars Planets. Go look that up and listen to it. So anyway, I hope that this video has helped you all. Please keep a lookout for the next one, which is going to be advanced techniques in performing for large crowds. I think that one should definitely help out a little bit in this particular case, because most people you know, get very concerned about being up in front of crowds. And if you don't want to, you know, if that's not going to be part of your life, it's still a good technique to learn, because you never know when that father, mother, sister, brother, son, daughter, aunt, uncle, school teacher, somebody's going to say, could you stand up here and play this thing for me? And you're going to be the one to do it. So remember that. But anyway, check out the next video, Advanced Techniques in Performing for Large Crowds. And then finally, we'll have our last one, which will be great. And there's a follow-up after that one that you didn't know about. So anyway, you can find all this on bluebearflutes.com. It's on our online class page. It's also throughout the website in various places. And of course, tons of videos here on YouTube. I hope to see you again very soon. Once again, Charlie Mato-Toyela signing out for Blue Bear Flutes. Take care.